My name is Elliot Harris, and what I'm about to share with you happened back in October of 1996. I've never told this story publicly before. Not in full, and even now it's hard to put it all into words. But I believe somebody out there needs to hear it. Maybe you felt abandoned, unloved, or like this life has never given you a real chance. I was there once too. And my journey through what I can only describe as hell itself might help you see just how real both suffering and salvation can be. I was born in Little Rock, Arkansas, to a father who preached on Sundays and a mother who barely believed in anything at all. When I was just 3 years old, they gave me up for adoption. No explanations, no goodbyes, just gone. At that age, you can't understand what's happening. You just feel like everything you are must not have been worth keeping. I remember feeling like my soul had been split wide open. I hated them. I hated God. I hated the world. I ended up in a foster home soon after that. On the outside, Stan and Linda Monroe seemed like kind people. The house looked normal. Their voices were soft. For a moment, I thought maybe this was my shot at something close to love. But it didn't take long to see through it. They didn't want me, they wanted the money. I was only 6 when the beating started. One night I had a nightmare and screamed out in my sleep. Stan stormed into the room, dragged me out of bed, and told me he'd give me something real to cry about. I cried so hard I wet myself, and that just made it worse. He beat me until I couldn't sit down. I prayed to God, begged him to take me away, but all I got was silence. As I got older, the abuse didn't stop. It just changed shape. It followed me into my teen years like a shadow I couldn't shake. I wasn't adopted. No one even considered it. Once you pass a certain age in the system, people stop looking at you like a child and more like a burden. Stan and Linda wore smiles in public, fooled social workers, played the part. Behind closed doors, it was a different story entirely. No one knew, or maybe no one cared to look close enough. By the time I got to high school, I'd had enough. I joined the weight training program and spent every ounce of anger I had pushing metal. I was strong, 230 pounds by sophomore year. One night, Stan came at me again, furious over something petty, and threw a punch. But that time I hit back. I don't remember much, just blood, broken bones, screaming. I snapped. When the cops came, Linda and the other kids lied. Said I started it. Said I was dangerous. No one listened when I tried to explain that I'd been defending myself from years of abuse. I was locked up in juvenile detention for 6 months. And when I got out, I found out the Monroes had washed their hands of me. I was back in the system again, even more angry and even more lost than before. My caseworker, Miss Camille, was the only person who ever showed me a bit of kindness. She picked me up from the facility herself. She told me the Monroes didn't want me back, and honestly, I didn't blame them. I didn't want them either. But I did want answers. I wanted to know why God kept letting these things happen. I asked him every night, but he never answered back. When I turned 18, I aged out of the system. No goodbye, no support, just a folder with my name on it and a pat on the back like I was supposed to figure life out on my own. I was 7 months away from graduating high school, but I had nowhere to live, no money, no family to turn to. So I dropped out. I started sleeping behind a gas station on Highway 12, wrapped in old newspapers, doing whatever I could to stay warm at night. People saw me and crossed the street. They called me a junkie, a thief, a waste. I get spit on, laughed at, ignored like I wasn't even human. After a while, I started to believe what they said. If God wouldn't even look at me, why would anyone else? That's when I started drinking heavy. Then came the pills. Then the harder stuff. It all blurred together, days, weeks, pain, numbness. I didn't care what I put in my body anymore. I started stealing copper wire from job sites just to afford the next fix. I'd sneak in at night, yank out whatever I could, and sell it for scrap. It wasn't much, but it kept me high, and that was enough. One night, I scored big 30 pounds of wire. I used the money to buy what I thought would carry me into the weekend. But this batch was different. It was laced with something I didn't recognize. I remember injecting it and immediately feeling like my body was on fire. I started convulsing, vomiting, shaking so hard I thought I'd snap in half. Everything around me started to spin, and in that moment I wasn't scared. I was relieved. I remember thinking, it's finally over. No more cold, no more hunger, no more pain. I gave in to it. Just let the darkness take me. But death wasn't what I expected. It wasn't quiet. It wasn't peaceful. It was something else entirely. When I opened my eyes, if you could call it that, I wasn't in my body anymore. I was floating, moving fast through this endless black tunnel. It was darker than anything I've ever seen. Not just the absence of light, but the absence of everything. No noise, no wind, no time. Just me, alone, drifting through it all like I was being pulled towards something I couldn't see. And then I stopped, dead in the middle of nothing. It was like being in outer space, but without stars. I couldn't feel pain anymore. I couldn't feel anything. For the first time in years, I wasn't hungry or cold or angry. I was just there. And for a while, that was okay. It felt peaceful, like I could rest in that nothingness forever. But then something changed. I started to get this feeling, like I was being watched. Not by one thing, but by many. It was like eyes were on me, all around, though I couldn't see a single face. That's when I heard it. A voice, whispering so softly I thought I imagined it at first. It just kept saying, "Let me in, let me in, let me in," over and over again. I should have been scared, but I wasn't. I was tired. So I said out loud, "Come in. I can't stop you anyway." That's when everything changed. A light, small at first, appeared in the distance. Then it grew bigger, brighter, hotter. The black around me started to peel away like it was being torn from the edges of reality. And then I saw them, two figures stepping out of the light. One looked human, brown hair, robe, calm expression. The other, he was beautiful, terrifyingly beautiful, radiant in a way that almost hurt to look at. And both of them were coming straight for me. As they came closer, their size shifted. They were tall at first, 8, maybe 9 feet, but slowly, they seemed to shrink down to match my height, like they were trying not to overwhelm me. The one on the left had a kind face, the kind you'd expect to see in paintings of Jesus at church. The one on the right, there's no way to describe him that does it justice. He was the most stunning thing I've ever seen. Flawless, glowing like he had light coming from inside him. But there was something in his eyes that made my stomach turn. Pride, power, maybe even hate. I asked them who they were. The one on the right smiled. Not a warm smile, but one of pride, and said, "You know me by many names. Samuel, Lucifer, Satan." The other looked at me with peace in his eyes and said, "And I am Yeshua, Jesus, the Prince of Peace." I froze. My mind couldn't make sense of what I was seeing. Jesus and Satan, standing together? It didn't match anything I'd ever heard in church. Weren't they supposed to be enemies? I was about to ask more questions, but Satan, or whatever he wanted to be called, started speaking again. He talked about how he was God's first creation, how he was loved before humans ever existed, and how, when we were created, God gave us things he never gave to Lucifer: free will, a soul, a bond with the Father that even he couldn't touch, and he hated us for it. "I didn't try to take God's throne," he said. "I just wanted his attention back." Jesus stepped forward, his voice calm but firm, and said, "My brother and I were both created by the Father. We serve him in different ways. You may not understand it now, but you will." I wanted to scream. None of this made sense. Jesus and Satan brothers? Serving the same Father? But before I could ask more, Jesus looked at me and smiled. "Elliot," he said, "you've already served your punishment. You've spent 70,000 years in hell. I've come to bring you home." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. 70,000 years? I had only been dead for minutes, maybe less. Jesus could see the confusion all over my face and gently said, "Time doesn't work here like it does on earth. What felt like moments to you was lifetimes where you were." My chest tightened. I didn't even remember it. I didn't remember fire or screams or chains, nothing like the hell people talk about. But something inside me knew he wasn't lying. I had been there. I had just blocked it out. I looked over at Satan. He had this grin on his face, like he was enjoying the moment, like he knew something I didn't. Then he leaned in, voice like a snake's whisper, and said, "At the rate you're going, Elliot, I'll see you again. And it won't be long." He straightened up, grew even taller than before, and then vanished into the blackness. Just like that, gone. All that was left was me, Jesus, and my thoughts. Jesus put his hand on my shoulder, and I felt this warmth shoot through my whole body. It wasn't just heat, it was love. Real love. The kind I had spent my whole life chasing but never finding. "You have more to do," he said. "It's not your time to stay here." I didn't want to go back to the streets, back to the pain. But he showed me pieces of my future. Flashes of hope, of change, of people I hadn't even met yet who needed me. And slowly I agreed. The next thing I remember, I was gasping for air in the back of an ambulance. The paramedic screamed when she saw me wake up, said I'd been dead for over 15 minutes. The hospital couldn't explain how I was alive, let alone how I hadn't suffered brain damage. But I knew why. I knew who had brought me back. Not long after, I was arrested for the copper thefts. But by a miracle, the judge gave me probation. Said he believed I was trying to turn my life around. Miss Camille, my old caseworker, found out I was back and offered to let me stay with her until I got on my feet. She didn't have to. She'd done her job. But she said something had told her I wasn't finished yet. She helped me get clean, go back to school, get my GED, and eventually earn a degree in computer programming. I got married, had 2 beautiful kids, and when Camille passed, I gave her eulogy. I called her my mother because in every way that mattered, she was. That experience changed everything. I still don't have all the answers. I still wrestle with what I saw. But I know this: hell is real, so is heaven. And whether we understand the mystery of it all or not, there is a God and he does care. No matter how far you've fallen, if you call out to him, even with your last breath, he will answer. He answered me. If my story touched you in any way, please consider subscribing, liking, or sharing this video with someone who might need to hear it. And if you've had your own experience, whether it's near death, spiritual, or something you can't explain, I'd love to hear about it in the comments below. Until next time, stay safe, stay hopeful, and remember, you're never too far gone.